All right, live stream should be starting up right about now, guys. Hope you guys are all having a good weekend so far. Obviously, really excited to talk about some NFL football here, breaking down the Week 9 main slate. So if you guys are new to the live stream, new to the channel, how it works is we'll take a look at the Vegas odds, we'll review it, and then I will go kind of give a player-by-player breakdown, position by position, cash plays, GPP plays, and then we'll get to questions at the end. Normally got about 20 or so minutes for questions, so I definitely will get to the questions at the end. But yeah, let's start with taking a look at these Vegas odds. So we have the Colts and the Ravens currently right now 48 over under. The Colts are 1-point favorites in that one. Panthers Chiefs is a 52 over under. The Chiefs are 10-point favorites. We do have Christian McCaffrey back in this one. Now we did get some pretty big news that it's going to be a split. They're going to take turns on the series, so that does make Christian McCaffrey a lot riskier on this slate. He was someone that I was looking to as a pivot off of a chalky Cook. Now it makes it a little bit more risky to do that. Bears Titans is a 46.5 over under. The Titans are 6-point favorites in this one. We have the Broncos and the Falcons a 50 over under. Falcons are 4.5-point favorites. We did just get the news that Calvin Ridley is out. So obviously Julio Jones, I think, is one of the top spend-up wide receivers in the slate. And then also a guy like Christian Blake, I think, is a viable punt at $3K. He was the direct backup there for Ridley last week. We have Lions, Vikings, a 51.5 over under. The Vikings are 3.5-point favorites. Now we do have Stafford back for this one for Detroit. So this one I think is kind of interesting game stack with two defenses that kind of struggle. You have some cheap options on both sides. I think it is doable. Texans, Jags, a 49 over under. The Texans are 7-point favorites. Jags are obviously without Gardner Minshew playing at the back quarterback, so we'll see how that goes. I think it's interesting because Houston is a team that seems to always be playing from behind. This is a game I think they will be playing from ahead, so maybe you can look to a guy like David Johnson. I still think obviously Watson, Fuller, Cooks are in play, but yeah, Giants, Washington, 43 over under. This is I believe the lowest over under of the day. Washington 3-point favorites. Not a lot that is super exciting in this game. I think you could look to either defense. But like I said, I always say with defense, it's such a high variance position that most of the time I'll just punt it and hope the defense I play doesn't kill me. We'll talk about some cheap defenses that I think are at least in play in the slate if you want to punt defense. Seahawks, Bills, a 55 over under. The Seahawks are 3-point favorites. So this one is probably going to be the most popular game for game stacking. I obviously like it for GPPs, but it's going to be popular. So, again, we'll talk about that a little bit more. But yeah, Raiders, Chargers, 52.5 over under. The Raiders are 1-point favorites. This game right here, I think, is my favorite game to stack just because there's cheap options on both sides, right? I think both quarterbacks are in play. You have, I think, an underpriced Darren Waller. On the other side of the Chargers, I think Jackson's a little bit too cheap. He'll be popular. Keenan Allen, I still think, is a little bit underpriced. He will be popular. And then also, you have Hunter Henry, I think, is going to be one of the most popular tight end plays of the day. So, sure, like Seahawks Bills, I think it's going to be one of the more popular games to stack. But I think it's easier to stack this one and still get some of the top options in the slate if that's the direction you want to go. Dolphins, Cardinals, a 48.5 over under. Cardinals are 6-point favorites. I think this one kind of flies under the radar. Obviously, we have no Kenny and Drake. So Chase Edmonds is one of the top running back plays on the slate, in my opinion. I do think he does get a majority of the work. Kyler is always in play for me. You guys know I love Kyler Murray. This is the one main slate I'm actually not getting to him. But obviously, I still like the pairing with him and DeAndre Hopkins to get a little bit contrarian. We know Edmonds is going to be one of the most popular plays. That's a spot to leverage it, right, if you want to go Kyler or Hopkins. Finally, Steelers, Cowboys, a 43.5 over under. Steelers are 14.5-point favorites. I think James Conner, one of the top running back plays on the slate in this game. They're big favorites. Cowboys really, really struggled. Obviously, the Steelers defense, if you can get to them, but they're really, really expensive. So that's it for the main slate. Or that's it for the Vegas odds. So let's talk about the players, player-by-player breakdown. And yeah, we'll start quarterback at the top. We have Patrick Mahomes at 8.1K. There is, I think there's enough value that if you really want to, you can still spend up in quarterback and cash. Like there's some spend down options, which we'll talk about. But yeah, I've been, spending up a lot of the times the quarterback and cash games this year. It's just been the top quarterbacks have just really, taken a step forward from like the mid-range and cheaper quarterbacks. So yeah, Mahomes, I obviously like. He's always in play. Him, Kelsey, Tyreek Hill. You have some run back options in Carolina if you kind of want to game stack it. Same thing with Kyler Murray, right? I talked about, kind of leveraging Chase Edmonds ownership. Edmonds is going to be popular. If you want to differentiate yourself, you can go Kyler, DeAndre Hopkins stack, right? Obviously, you're going to have to pay a premium for him, so you're going to have to spend down other positions, but that stack will be pretty low owned today. And again, it's always in play. Now, again, Seattle Buffalo, this is going to be the most popular game stack in my opinion. Going to be really popular in both formats in cash and GPPs. And I think this will be the most popular stack in GPPs. You have two clear stacking options with Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf and Lockett. Now, Lockett's going to be a lot more popular this slate. I think he's going to be one of the most popular plays on this slate in general, Tyler Lockett, that is. So if you want to differentiate yourself, you can go the lower owned Metcalf. He is $1,000 more. Either way, though, Russell Wilson, got to like him in the highest over-under of the slate, and he's been phenomenal so far this year. Josh Allen, I think, is in play in both formats. We've seen the Seattle defense just really struggle. Again, the highest over-under of the day, and Josh Allen does have some rushing upside, same with Russell Wilson. So, yeah, I think he looks good. You have Stephon Diggs at the top you can pair him with, or if you want to get a little bit risky, you can look to John Brown, who has struggled, but I think does still have some upside at his price. Deshaun Watson at 7-1, so kind of mentioned it, going over the Vegas odds. This is a game I think they are projected to be playing from ahead, so maybe they slow it down a little bit. Maybe David Johnson gets 20-plus touches on the ground. So that does worry me a little bit, but I still love the matchup here for Watson. And again, you have some clear stacking options with either Cooks or Will Fuller if that's the direction you want to go. So, yeah, Watson, I think, isn't playing both formats. I'm just a little bit worried that they're playing from ahead, so maybe they do slow it down a little bit in this one. Lamar Jackson at 6-9, I like a lot for tournaments. He is projected to be pretty low owned. I think maybe like 5% on this slate. I know the matchup's not great, but kind of talked about it, right? That Pittsburgh game. He got a little bit unlucky. Obviously, had some turnovers, but got tackled at 1, had another like 20-yard rushing touchdown called back. So, yeah, Lamar does present that floor of the ground game. So I like him at this price for GPPs, and I like him quite a bit. I think he does go low owned. Other quarterback options, yeah. So Herbert at 6-8, I think is still in play. But for me, if you're looking at this price range, I would rather just spend up a little bit more for the top guys. Being like Lamar, Allen, Watson. So not saying Herbert's out of play, but I think he is slightly contrarian. Let's see. So Stafford's at 6-6. He's an interesting play because I don't think a lot of people get to him. He was expected. There's a chance he wasn't going to be available due to COVID. He is playing here. We have Galladay out, so you do have some cheap ways to kind of pair him up, right? You have a guy like Marvin Hall, who I think does look decent on the slate. I think you have a guy like Marvin Jones Jr. that is a little bit underpriced for him being the number one receiver now. And you even have T.J. Hockenson, I think, flies under the radar. So Stafford is an interesting contrarian play here. I think more suited for GPPs. The matchup is good, though, against Minnesota. I'm not going to get to Big Ben. There's no confidence that Dallas scores enough points to make it so Pittsburgh has to air it out. Matt Ryan is always viable in GPPs, right? Julio Jones, I think, does look like one of the top plays of the slate if you can get to him. Tannehill, I'm going to pass on. Kirk Cousins at 6-2. Yeah, you can, I went last week, I went a Cousins Thielen stack. It obviously didn't work out because it was Cook. He only threw it 14 times. But this is a spot, again, you can kind of leverage ownership. We know Cook is going to be one of the most popular, if not the most popular play in the slate. He's going to be really popular. So one way to leverage that, you can go Cousins Thielen stack, right? Because I think very few people will do that. And sure, there's a chance, if Minnesota falls behind this game, they might abandon the run game a little bit, and then you could look to a Cousins Thielen stack. So that's more suited for GPPs. Bridgewater is viable in a game they're probably going to be playing from behind, but again, more of a GPP play. And then we have a couple cheap plays. So for quarterback in cash games, I think the guy that I'm looking to as a spend-down quarterback is Derek Carr at 5-7. Last week, early in the week, I was high on him as a cash game quarterback, but as we got later on in the week, we got the bad weather, and then we talked about the live stream. I was off him just because the wind was terrible in that game. This one is, projected to be pretty high scoring. Again, there's some cheap options in this game. I think Carr looks like a pretty good cash game quarterback there at his price. Rivers against Baltimore is a fade for me. Tua, didn't see enough of him last week for me to get super confident about it. Again, it was the Miami defense that really took over. So if you want to take a shot or two on him in GPPs, fine, but Nothing I'm super excited about. I think you can look to Foles at 5.5. I don't think a lot of people get to him. Positives are 42, 39, 40, 41 pass attempts. He's passing a ton, and Tennessee has really, really struggled defensively. You have Allen Robinson at the top you can pair him with, who I think goes low owned because there's a lot of good options kind of in that 7K range. You got like Darnell Mooney, who's one of my favorite value plays in the slate. I just think it's too cheap. It's played over 90% of the snaps last week. So, yeah, Foles is in play and spend down. I don't think a lot of people get to him. I'm probably not going to get to Jones or Kyle Allen in the Giants-Washington game. Projected to be pretty ugly. Drew Lock's in consideration here in a decent spot against Atlanta. But it's one of those situations, it kind of feels like a Jimmy Garoppolo situation last week. Like, yes, he's in play. Yes, it's a good matchup. But do you really trust Drew Lock? I don't know if I trust it enough to get to my cash games. Like, I would feel more comfortable, again, with Derek Carr. And then, Lutton's going to start for Jacksonville here. I mean, we haven't seen anything from him in the NFL. So if you want to take a dart or two on him in GPPs, fine, right? It's a really good matchup. But nothing I can go to with confidence there either. And that about wraps it up for me for quarterback. So let's talk about running back now. And at the top here is Christian McCaffrey. Originally, he was a guy that I really liked as a leverage spot off of Dalvin Cook. But now we got the news that he's going to rotate series with Mike Davis. Can he still get you there with like 50% of the work? Yeah, he can, but he's going to have to really, probably get, a ton of catches or either a touchdown or two. It's a tricky spot. I'm probably not going to get to him this week just off this news. I just don't feel comfortable enough paying 8.5 for him if he's only going to play 50% of the snaps there for Carolina. Now, Dalvin Cook is going to be super, super popular. Obviously, he had an explosion week last week. Would not expect 4 touchdowns in the ground, but Minnesota's a run-first team. This is a good matchup. So, yes, Dalvin Cook looks like one of the best cash game plays in the slate. I don't think he's a must-play. Again, he's going to be super, super popular. There's a lot of ways to differentiate yourself at running back. There's some cheaper options, right? I think guys like David Montgomery, David Johnson as cheaper options, right? Justin Jackson, I think, will be pretty popular, but he's another way to spend out a running back. So, yes, there's ways to kind of differentiate yourself. Spend down a running back, maybe get a couple more of those top-end wide receivers. But, yeah, Cook, as far as cash games go, I think he's probably the top play with, in my opinion, Connor and Edmonds. But I think Justin Jackson is also in consideration. Those are the 4 cash game running backs I would play. Cook, James Conner, Chase Edmonds, Justin Jackson. Those are the guys I would consider if I was playing cash games on this slate. Derrick Henry is a void for me. I know some people kind of like him as a contrarian play. I'm not going there against Chicago. No involvement in the passing game. This is a tougher spot. It's just not for me at that price point. James Robinson at 7K. It's just more of a contrarian player. Playing at the back of the quarterback, the matchup is good here. So, like, if you wanted to go a Texan stack, like a Deshaun Watson, Will Fuller, and run it back with someone like James Robinson, probably is the guy you look to run it back with. But do I trust it playing with the back of quarterback? I don't know. So, yeah, I think it's a little bit too expensive for me. Now, mentioned, Connor and Edmonds. These are 2 of my favorite plays here at their respective prices. Connor's too cheap at 6.9. Sure. Right, there's, I guess, some risk this game gets completely out of control, and then maybe they go to, like, Benny Snell in the 4th quarter. But I think this is a game that Connor has an explosion game. He has got unlucky with touchdown variance, in my opinion, throughout the last few weeks. And I just really, really like the matchup here. I think this is a game he could blow up, go for 30+. So, yeah, I really like James Conner at this price. He's going to be popular, but I think he's one of the top cash game plays. Same thing with Chase Edmonds at 6.8. I just think, sure, that he got priced up with no Drake, but I think he does get a majority of the work, and he's shown with limited work so far this season, he's been a really, really explosive back. So I do like Chase Edmonds a lot here at that price. Again, it's Cook, it's James Conner, it's Chase Edmonds, and it's Justin Jackson. For me, those are the 4 running backs I would consider for cash games. I would play 3 of the 4 in cash. Mike Davis at that price, no way I'm paying that with 50% of the work. Zeke Elliott, this is a situation we do have to monitor. He's questionable, but they say he has a good chance to play. If he does get ruled out, I think you can look to Pollard at min price at running back. Pollard is a guy that is a pretty good running back. Again, the matchup's not great, and playing with questionable quarterback, play. Dallas is probably going to struggle, but I think you can look to punt with Pollard if Zeke is out. Zeke himself, if playing, I don't have interest at that price. Josh Jacobs at 6'3". He's also listed as questionable and expected to play. I think he's an interesting player in the mid-range. He did get 31 carries last week, but that was due to the weather, right? They really relied on the ground game. He's kind of game flow dependent, so if the Raiders do fall behind this one, I think he gets phased out a bit, like we saw against Tampa Bay, where he only had 10 carries. So there is some risk, but the price point's fair for Jacobs. I think he's a fine option. I'm not getting to Gurley or Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Jonathan Taylor. Those guys are fades for me. Then Gaskin's on the IR. I don't really want to target the Miami cheap running backs. We'll talk about them, but I'm not going there. Now, a couple of interesting plays here in kind of the mid-range for running back. Montgomery and David Johnson, I like both quite a bit. Montgomery at 5'7", David Johnson at 5'6". Now, would I go there in cash games? Probably not, but I like these guys at their respective prices. Montgomery is the workhorse back here for Chicago. I know he hasn't been super productive, but this is a really good matchup, and he's getting a ton of targets. 8, 5, 5, and 5 the last 4 games, and there's no competition for running back carries here for Chicago. So I do like David Montgomery in the mid-range. I think he does look pretty good for GPP. Same thing David Johnson, right? This is a game they're projected to be playing from ahead. In every single game, the last 4 games that they've played from behind, so he hasn't got a ton of work. But yeah, I think this is a game he could maybe go for 20+ carries, and he gets some involvement in the passing game. So both Johnson and Montgomery, I think, are interesting ways to differentiate yourself at running back, and I do like them both in the mid-range. The Denver running backs, I'm not getting to. I'm not going to the Buffalo running backs either. No thank you on Le'Veon Bell at that price. DJ Dallas, at the beginning of the week, was a potential value play, but we have Homer now healthy. They have Alex Collins from the practice squad called up. I'm not getting to DJ Dallas. I think he's a fade here. I don't feel comfortable with it. Again, Homer was used as an emergency situation last week. Homer's now healthy. He's ahead of Dallas on the depth chart, so I just don't trust it. The price is up. I'll let others chase DJ Dallas. Big game last week. DeAndre Swift is a viable GPP play. You guys know the concerns here, right? AP still involved. Kerryon Johnson here and there. So there's 3 running backs that will get some carries, but he is the best of the 3, and he's the guy that probably does get a majority or the most work. It's just, again, 2 other running backs in this team. So yeah, you can look to Swift for GPPs, but not a cash game play. Now, Justin Jackson at 4.9. He's the cheap running back I think you can go to in cash. It's been a little bit up and down, but I guess he was dealing with an injury there against Jacksonville. The last game against Denver, he kind of took over. He doubled the snaps there of Josh Kelly. Pope, who got some carries last game, is out. So yeah, Jackson is a cheap option. I think you can look to him, right? Targets 6, 6, and 5 last 3 weeks. He is their passing down running back. He's also getting more work than Josh Kelly on the ground, and it's a good spot. So I think you can go to Justin Jackson in cash. He would be the spend down running back I would look to. If you don't want to spend out a running back, for me, for cash games, again, it's Cook, it's Edmonds, it's James Conner are the guys that I would go to. Baltimore running backs here, you can go to either one of those guys in GPPs with Dobbins and Edwards. They'll split the work. Issue is no real involvement in the pass game, and Lamar will keep it himself a lot. Buffalo running backs, I'm off. Wayne Gallman at 4.5. Alfred Morris got worked in. Deion Lewis in the third down situation, so not enough for me to consider him. Again, Kelly, I'm off. I'd rather get to Jackson for a little bit more. And then, I guess we can talk about the Miami running backs now. So let's go to them. I'm not getting there, but if you want to take a shot, it's probably going to be Howard, the early down work, Laird, third down work, maybe Ahmed gets a couple carries here and there. If you're going to make me pick, I'll go Laird since he's the best receiving down back, but I'm not getting to the Miami running backs on this one again. And then finally, Pollard. If Zeke does get ruled out, I think he does look like one of the better value plays of the slate. He probably would get a majority of the carries at min price. I know the matchup's not great, but he's shown he's a good pass-catching running back. So, yeah, Pollard I would look to for value if Zeke is out, but we're probably not going to get that news until later. So it's kind of the same situation with DJ Dallas last week, right, with all those Seattle guys getting ruled out after the 1 o'clock lock. So not a lot of people got to Dallas, and he was really good at low ownership. So this is kind of the same situation. Like, if Zeke does get ruled out, I think Tony Pollard is a really solid value play there at min price for running back. Let's move on to wide receiver. Real quick, though, before we talk about wide receiver, if you guys enjoy the content, take 1 second out of your day, hit that like button. It does really help me out. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are now at 5.6 thousand subscribers, so I really appreciate all the support, guys. But yeah, let's get back to wide receiver. Hopkins at 8-2, I think makes for a nice contrarian play on the slate. There's chalky receivers, right? The chalk at wide receiver, Julio Jones, Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett, I think Diggs. Those are going to be the guys really popular right below. So Hopkins is going to fly under the radar. Mentioned, the pairing with Kyler Murray to kind of differentiate yourself. If you want to leverage the chalky Chase Edmonds ownership, you can just go to Kyler and Hopkins to differentiate yourself, right? So I think Hopkins is in play. I like him as a GPP play. Metcalf does intrigue me too at 7-8. I don't think a lot of people get to him, even after that big week, right? Everyone's talking Tyler Lockett. It's Tyler Lockett, Tyler Lockett. I think Tyler Lockett probably does look better than him for $1,000 cheaper playing out of the slot. But that means Metcalf is going to be really low owned. And he's shown the huge upside games, and it's a good matchup. So, yes, I think Metcalf's in play. I like him as a GPP play for the ownership. And then we get to some of the chalky plays. So Diggs, I think, will be pretty popular at 7-4. He's been their clear number one receivers. He's been getting a ton of targets, 16, 8, 11, and 9. So averaging about over 10 targets a game the last 4 games. And like I said, Seattle has really struggled defensively. So, yes, I think Diggs looks like a really solid play there at that price. Julio Jones, in my opinion, one of the top cash game plays. No Calvin Ridley. The upside is just through the roof when Ridley's out. Julio is going to be their clear guy, and it's just too cheap. So I like Julio quite a bit at that price. I also like Keenan Allen a lot here at 7K. I don't know if a ton of people get to him. I think the illness that he had the last couple of days, is just a sore throat, does lower the ownership a bit on him, but I still think he's too cheap. He's a target machine. I like Keenan Allen again here at 7K. Tyreek Hill, again, more suited for GPPs for me. And then Tyler Lockett, right? He is going to be pretty popular this slate. And, sure, he's been a little bit up and down, but this is, it looks better for Lockett on paper, right? Playing out of the slot, the price is also $1,000 cheaper than Metcalf. So, yes, Lockett's going to be popular. I think he does look like a pretty good play there at that price. So, yeah, right. I think the chalk at wide receiver is probably going to be guys like Diggs, Julio Jones, Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett. In that range, there's going to be a ton of ownership. If we go down a little bit, Fuller at 6-8, I don't think will be super popular. He does have the big play upside, and the matchup is really good. Does have a touchdown in the last 4 games, too. So I think he's in play. You can definitely pair him with Watson, right? The Houston passing attack has been really good. My one concern is this is a game I think they are playing from ahead. So maybe they rely on the ground game a little bit more. But, I did say the same thing last week with Kansas City, and you saw what happened, right? The Kansas City passing attack just went crazy, and they just didn't run the ball at all. So, yeah, right? You can definitely still go to Fuller, Cooks, and pair him with Watson. Thielen, I like as a contrarian play at 6-7. I just don't think a lot of people get to him. It's kind of the same situation with Hopkins, right? Because Edmonds is going to be popular. Well, one way to leverage the ownership, you go the opposite way at wide receiver, Hopkins. Cook is going to be, I think, the most popular play in the slate. Look to Thielen as a pivot, right? Because there's a chance that Minnesota falls behind this game. If they do, they're going to have to rely on the passing game more. So I kind of like Thielen as a contrarian play at 6-7. He's going to be pretty low owned, but it's a nice way to differentiate yourself off of a chalky Dalvin Cook. I'm not going to get to A.J. Brown. McLaurin, I'll probably pass on. Again, no Galladay. The Carolina receivers are viable for GPPs, both Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. I do prefer Moore for the price. If you want to go like a Kansas City stack and run it back with someone, right? If you want to go like Mahomes and either Hill or Kelsey and run it back, I think the clear run back guy is Moore, but you can still look to Robbie Anderson, who's been good so far. The Pittsburgh wide receivers with Juju, Claypool, and Deontay Johnson are all viable, but more suited for GPPs for me in a game that I'm just not confident Dallas can score enough points. But like I said, this is the same situation talk about Kansas City, right? I was not confident in the Jets, but Kansas City's passing offense still went crazy last week. So yes, these guys are in play for GPPs. For me, it's Deontay Johnson at 5K. He's the guy that I would prefer, but all three are viable. Justin Jefferson, kind of the same thing with Thielen, right? It's a way to differentiate yourself off a chalky Dalvin Cook. I'm not going to get to Hollywood Brown at 6K. I don't trust Lamar's passing game. I do like his rushing upside, but I just think the price is a little bit too expensive. Other options in the mid-range, so I think Cooks, kind of in this 5K range, will probably be the most popular play. He's been getting a ton of targets here. Last few games, 12, 9, and 9 targets. So, yeah, I think he does look pretty good. I think you can go to him in both formats. All things make point for Cooks being a pretty decent play. Now, he does have a price hike, right? He was like 4K a few weeks ago. Now he's 5.5, but I still think he does look like a pretty decent option. Beasley, I don't think a lot of people are talking about him. He kind of had an off week last week against New England. But, he is an interesting way to, if you are going Buffalo and Seattle, if you're stacking that game up, which, like I said, I think is going to be the most popular build in GPPs, is the Buffalo-Seattle stack. Maybe to differentiate yourself, you go Cole Beasley, right? Because you have Diggs at the top, is going to be popular. Obviously, both the top Seattle receivers. Maybe you look to a guy like Beasley. So, yeah, he's a way, again, to differentiate yourself for GPPs. Parker at 5.2 would probably be him. We'll talk about one min-price guy who I think is really risky, but I think you can at least consider him. Is a way to kind of bring it back if you're going with a Kyler Hopkins stack. If you want to game stack that game, it's probably Parker or a cheap guy who we'll talk about in a sec. Other options here, so Marvin Jones at 5.1, I think looks pretty good, right? He does have Stafford now playing, which is a boost to him. 7 and 6 targets last couple games, and no Galladay. And again, the matchup is good. So sure, the price went up, but I still think Marvin Jones does look pretty good here in the mid-range there at that price. Other cheap options for wide receiver, let's see. I'm not really interested in Aguilar at that price. The Denver receivers, Judy and Patrick are fine options. If you want to pair him with a cheap Drew Lock, I think that's okay. I'm not overly excited about it, though. John Brown at 4.6 is, a cheap play that is viable, right? Like I said, I think Diggs will be the most popular way to stack it up with Josh Allen if people are going that way. You look to Beasley or Brown to kind of get different. Brown has really struggled, but has also been dealing with some injuries. And he did have a good start to the week or start to the year with 19 to 18 fantasy points the first couple of weeks, but has really struggled since then. So 4.6 is at a fair enough price point. I think it is fine option there for a GPP setting. And now let's talk about some cheap plays at wide receiver. So a couple options I want to talk about. I think my favorite play below 4K, Darnell Mooney, 3.9K. I don't think he's going to be super popular, but I think that's a mistake. I really like Mooney here at 3.9. 7 and 6 targets, back-to-back games. He played over 90% of the snaps last game. And with Mims out, their number 4 receiver, I think that continues. And the matchup is really good here against Tennessee. And Mooney's running he's one of those air yards guy, right? He's running a lot of air yards. He's running the big play routes. So I like Darnell Mooney here at 3.9. If the question is who's my favorite 4K below 4K receiver, it's Darnell Mooney here. I think he does look like one of the better value plays of the slate. I think you can look to Marvin Hall, 2 at 3.8. Now, there is some worry here. Cephas was inactive last week. He's active, so maybe Cephas works in a bit here, too. So there's no guarantee that Hall is going to get a majority of the work, but that last game, when Galladay went down, he had 4 catches, 7 targets, and over 100 yards. And like I said, this matchup is really good against Minnesota. I don't know if a ton of people get to Marvin Hall, too. So for me, as below 4K receivers, it's probably Mooney, it's probably Marvin Hall are the 2 guys I like the most. Sure, you can look to Amendola, 2 at 3.7, playing out of the slot. He really hasn't flashed a ton of upside, but I think he's at least in consideration on this slate. And then let's get to the punt plays at wide receiver. I think you can still consider Demarcus Robinson at 3.2. Right, he's still playing like 60-70% of the snaps. If you want a cheap piece to this Kansas City offense, Robinson is probably the guy. But yeah, let's talk about, there's 3 or 4 cheap guys that I want to bring up. So first, let's talk about Atlanta and Christian Blake. He's at 3K. He stepped in and basically played the entire game when Ridley was out in the second half. So he is their clear backup. I think he does play a majority of the game here, and he's at min price. So I have interest in Christian Blake. I think he does look like one of the better min price guys. There's a couple other options I'll talk about, but I have interest in Blake. I think Atlanta is a little bit weird. They have the clear backups, but Blake is the clear backup for Ridley. Ridley's out. I think Blake probably gets 70 to 80% of the snaps here, and at 3K, again, he doesn't need a lot to pay off his salary. So, yeah, Christian Blake, min-price guy that you can consider. Another min-price guy, Marcus Johnson for the Colts. He's active. He was dealing with a little bit of injuries, but he was already playing like 60% of snaps. And now no T.Y. Hilton, I think he does get even more. 8 and 4 targets in back-to-back weeks. Sure, the matchup's not great, but again, these min-price receivers, they do not need a lot to pay off their salary. And if he's going to play majority of the game, I think he's another guy you can consider here. There's a couple other guys I want to mention here. Let's go to, let's see. Let's go to Miami. This is a lot riskier. Ford is no longer there for Miami. Again, it's Parker and Preston Williams playing on the outside, but Jakeem Grant, the speedster, I think there's a decent chance that he does get a majority of the work that Ford was getting. And Grant was playing about 30-ish% of the snaps. With Ford out, who was playing about 30%, does that all go to Grant? Does that make him playable here? I think there's a chance he picks up a majority of those snaps. And if he gets like 60% playing out of the slot at mid-price, he's obviously a speedster, at least someone you can consider. It's a risky play, but I think he's at least in consideration that no one's really talking about. And then I think there was one more guy, for Washington. We have no Dontrell Inman. Where is he? Steven Sims Jr. He's active. He was in the IR, but first couple weeks here, in week 1 and week 2, he was okay, and he played like 90% of the snaps. So I think he will be the number 2 guy. I think, workload coming off the IR maybe is a little bit more in question. Maybe they limit him a bit, but another cheap guy, min price, that I think you can consider on this slate. So yeah, those are probably the 4 guys I would look to if you're going to really punt wide receiver. Let's talk about tight ends now. So at the top, Kelsey, more suited for GPPs, but like I said with Hill, Mahomes, they are always in play for GPPs. Darren Waller, I like at 5'8". I don't know if he's going to be super chalky on this slate. Just the targets with him, 11, 7, 9, 6 targets. I kind of throw that out because of that windy game, but I just like the upside here, and he's like the only Raider pass catcher I feel comfortable with. And if you're going to Carr, I think the clear way to stack it up is with Darren Waller. So, yeah, I like him a good amount here at 5'8". I think you can go there in cash. I think it's a way to get a little bit different in cash games, right? Because I think the chalk will probably be Hunter Henry or Hayden Hurst at tight end. So one way to differentiate your cashing lineup is maybe you just go Darren Waller for a couple $1,000s more. I like him a good amount here. That's the way that I'm going. I'm going Carr. I'm going Waller. I'm running it back with Keenan Allen. That's the game stack I'm using for this week. Hockenson at 5-1 against Minnesota, I think is in play. I wish he would have been a little bit cheaper, but saw 10 targets last game with no Kenny Golladay. So there's a chance that he does get more work here with Golladay out. Again, the matchup is good, so I think you can consider Hockenson. Mark Andrews at 4.8. The price is coming down, but I just don't know if I'd trust the Baltimore pass catchers against the Colts. Noah Fant at 4.6 is a fine option against Atlanta. He's been getting a ton of targets. I think he's an okay option. Evan Ingram at 4.3, another guy that has been getting more targets here, 10 and 9 targets in back-to-back games. I think that is definitely a viable, cheaper play. And then the 2 chalk guys, Hurst, Henry. These are probably the most popular. I think Henry probably will be the most popular cash game tight end. Targets have been consistent for him. He's playing majority of the game. The matchup is really, really good. So, yeah, Henry looks good. Hurst is good as well with no Ridley. Maybe he does get a few more targets. He's been really consistent. He's running a ton of routes. So those are the 2 cheap tight ends I would probably look to for a cash game setting. Other cheap tight ends like Logan Thomas, I've actually played him back-to-back weeks. He's actually paid off, but has had a touchdown in each of those weeks to kind of salvage the day. 4 targets the last 4 weeks. He's still running a ton of routes, which is good. This is one of the lower over-unders of the slate, so I probably feel a little bit more comfortable going to Hurst, to Henry. The Colts tight ends, they have 3, so if you want to consider Burton or Mo Cox or Jack Doyle, fine. Burton actually gets carries near the red zone. He's actually ran one in back-to-back weeks, which is really surprising. But yeah, if you're going to make me pick one of those Colts tight ends, I guess it's Burton. But like I said, it's tough because they do utilize 3. Cheaper tight ends, honestly, there's nothing I'm really comfortable with. I guess the guy that if I was going to really punt tight end, it would be Eifert at 2.7. He's back from injury. When he was healthy, was getting a decent amount of targets, 6.3, 6.7. It's a good spot here. Obviously, playing in the back, the quarterback does take a little bit of a hit. But, yeah, if you're going to make me pick a punt tight end, I guess it would be Eifert. And finally, let's talk about defense now. So, like I always talk about this with defense, it's a super, super high variance position that most of the time I will just spend down. Because I just don't think it's worth spending up on defense when there's so many things that can go wrong. It's just really, really high variance position. So if you can get to the Steelers, they're probably the safest option. But 4.9K, they're going to need like a lot to pay off their salary. They're probably going to need like a defensive touchdown. Cheaper defenses. Washington, I think, looks okay. Giants have really struggled offensively. Other defenses, for me, I think there's a couple spend-down defenses that I'm considering. One of them is the Giants at 2.7. This is the lowest over-under of the slate. Washington playing with Kyle Allen at quarterback. Not great quarterback play. And, 43 over-under, I think the Giants are the defense that I think you can look to punt. A couple other punt defensive options. The Falcons defense, I know they are not great, but going up against questionable quarterback play and Drew Lock, Falcons, I think, are at least in consideration to punt it. Below that, originally I was on the Vikings, but with Stafford now playing, I'm not as high in the Vikings defense. And I don't really feel comfortable with anything below that. Like, I'm not going to play the Panthers against KC. I'm definitely not playing the Cowboys defense. I don't want to play the Bills in that high over-under game. The Jags defense has really struggled. I'm not really looking to the Raiders. So for me, like, some spend-down defenses are probably the Giants, the Falcons, where I'm looking to. I know Titans defense is, a lot of people talk about them going up in Chicago. I'm not as excited about them. So that's kind of my breakdown for defense. Those are the two, I guess, spend-down defenses for me, Giants and the Falcons. So that about wraps it up, guys, for the player-by-player breakdown. Again, if you guys are asking for like a cash game core, well, like I said, I think it's those 4 running backs that I would consider. Dalvin Cook, James Conner, Edmonds, and Justin Jackson. So play 3 of those 4 guys, whichever fit into your lineup. If you want to go with the top 3 guys, that's fine. But yeah, again, those are the 3 guys. These 3 plus Justin Jackson are the running backs that I would look to for cash games. So if you want to put Jackson in instead of one of these 3 guys, that's fine. But those are the 4 running backs I think you look to for cash. As far as wide receivers for cash games, I think Julio looks really good. I think Keenan Allen and probably a guy like Lockett. Those are like the spend up, wide receivers for cash. So throw one of those guys in. You can get to 2 if you go Jackson here, and then or take one of these guys out and go Jackson. You can probably get 2 of the top wide receivers. But yeah, throw one of those guys in there, and then tight end. I think it's probably going to be Henry or Hurst for me as far as cheap tight ends go. But I do like Waller 2 at the top if you can get to him. So that's kind of where I'm thinking for a cash game setting. Again, we talked about a lot for GPPs to differentiate yourself. Obviously, game stacks, run it back with guys. If you want to follow my lead, I always tell you guys where I'm going. I'm going Derek Carr, Darren Waller stack, and running it back with Keenan Allen. So that's how I'm going about this slate. Again, I'm going GPPs only. But yeah, that about wraps it up for the breakdown. So we have 20 minutes until lock. So let's get to some questions. One more time, I'll ask if you enjoy the content. Like button and subscribe if you haven't already. We are over 200 viewers, so let's do it. Darnell Mooney, my dark horse. I really like Darnell Mooney. I'm playing him today. Justin Jackson or Dave Montgomery for cash. I think it's Jackson. I do like Dave Montgomery. I still think you can go there in cash games, I guess. He's just going to be low owned, and you don't really want to play lower owned guys in cash. So I think Montgomery is a guy I really like for GPPs as a running back. I don't think a lot of people get to. Hurst, Henry, Font. Yeah, those are, for me, it's probably Henry. I'd probably go Henry, then Hurst, then Font. Gotta get the safety of Julio Lockett this week in their matchups. Yeah, those 2 look really good. Like, those 2 are going to be really chalky as well. How does this look, DK? Locke, Connor, Edmonds, Julio, Judy, Deontay, Fant, Jefferson, and the Falcons defense. I think that looks pretty good for a GPP lineup, right? So you're going with kind of a game stack with Locke, Judy, Font, running it back with Julio. You have a lower owned Deontay, and then Justin Jefferson. I'm guessing that's who Jefferson is to kind of leverage the Cook ownership. Which cheap receiver you prefer, Marcus Johnson or Jakeem Grant? I think Johnson is safer because he's played more snaps. And Grant is just like a dart throw for me. But I just wanted to bring him up. Like, I think because he only played 30% of snaps last week with no Ford. There's no guarantee he gets all of Ford's work. So I think the safer option is Johnson there. He's had a pretty big role with the Colts offense, even with T.Y. playing. Herbert, Keenan Allen, and Mooney, or Josh Allen, Diggs, and Hamler. It's the first one for me. With Tim Patrick now playing, Hamler is a little bit riskier. I want to see how many snaps he does play this week, but right now I'm kind of off him with Patrick playing. I'm rolling with Locke, Cook, Robinson, Amendola, Julio Jones, Font, David Johnson, and Washington Football Team. Again, it's a more of a GPP lineup, obviously. Amendola is going to be low owned. Hall is going to be the more popular play for Detroit, but Amendola I think still plays like 50 to 60% of the snaps. So I'm okay with that. Nice DK. I'm running it back with Justin Jackson. Yeah, I like Jackson a lot too, right? Jackson is the guy, the cheap running back I think I would look to. But don't rule out Tony Pollard, right? If we do get news that Zeke is out, like I want Tony Pollard. Let's see, Judy Font running it back with Julio Jones. Yeah, that's fine, right? Swift is in play for GPPs. There's AP. They still have Kerryon Johnson, so there's still two other running backs that will get some touches. Now, how much work does Swift get is a little bit more a question. Now, they fell behind early that game, so that's why he only had 6 carries. But if I was going to play Detroit running back, it would be Swift. But obviously, you can't go there for cash. I do like the upside there GPPs. Just got in here. What are your thoughts on Robbie Anderson today? He's going to be low owned. He's a nice bring back if you're going with a Chiefs stack, right? And like for me, I probably like the price a little bit more in DJ Moore. But I'm fine with Robbie for GPPs as a bring back there, or if you just want to play him outright at that price, he's going to be low owned. Can you play Kyler, Hopkins, and Edmonds in cash, or is that too many Cardinals? I probably wouldn't do that in cash games. That's just going to leave you with, you're spending up, you're using a lot of your salary there with, I don't think I feel comfortable with that in cash. Now, you can do that in GPPs. You can. You're going to need the Cardinals to put up a lot of points, but it's a viable way to do it. If I was doing that, if I was playing all 3 of the top Cardinals, I would probably want to run it back with someone on Miami. So whether it be Devontae Parker, probably is the guy that you feel the most comfortable running it back with someone. Marcus Robinson, let's see. What do you think about Melvin Gordon today? I'm not really on him. I don't know if what's his price at? He's at 5.2. Like, Philip Lindsay got a decent amount of carries. He's active. I don't know if I feel comfortable with Gordon at 5.3. He will fly under the radar, and the matchup's, decent, but I'm not super, super excited about it. Like, for me in that range, I probably prefer Johnson and Montgomery for a little bit more. Justin Jackson, yeah, he is included with the 3 guys I have on here for cash games. DK, how does this look? Let's see. Carr, Connor, Robinson, Allen, Jones, Mooney, Henry, Justin Jackson, the Washington defense. Good with me. Jackson or David Johnson, well, which format? I think for cash games it is Jackson. But again, Johnson, Montgomery in that range, I like to kind of differentiate yourself. I think they do go lower owned. Nick Foles is going to crush today. I kind of like Nick Foles too. I don't think a lot of people play him. He's been throwing the ball a ton. The matchup's really good. Hasn't really had a big day, but I think this is a game that you could see like 20 to 25 fantasy points from Nick Foles. Pollard or JJ, right now it's Justin Jackson. But if we do get the news that Zeke is out, I think you can go to Pollard and cash. Beware, let's see. Judy and Bills D or Amendola, Washington D. Defense is such a high variance position that I think I take the player that I like better. So give me Judy. I don't really like the Bills defense though, but there's a chance they can maybe get a couple interceptions here or maybe the fumble recovery, right? So Lock, Daniel Jones, or Tua for cash. Of those 3 guys, it would be Lock. But I don't know if I go any of those guys in cash games. Thoughts on Judy? I think Judy looks like a pretty decent option at 4.7. The matchup's good. He's running and he's getting open. He's their number 1 guy. So I think he's a decent option. Let's see. How's this for cash DK? Carr, Cook, Dallas, Julio, Thielen, Mooney, Henry, and Edmonds. So yeah, DJ Dallas is the guy that I'm not really excited about. I don't trust it with Homer now more healthy. They also brought up Alex Collins. I don't trust DJ Dallas today. I got Josh Allen, Cook, David Johnson, Diggs, Deontay Johnson, Lockett, Logan Thomas, Hall, Falcons D for GPP. I think that looks pretty good to me. Herbert, McCaffrey, Cook, Hardman, Hall, Blake, Fells, Henry, and the Dolphins defense. Are you using all your salary? I feel like you're leaving salary on the table playing Hardman, Hall, Blake, Fells, right? I think you got to have more salary, right? Best running back under 6,200. Under 6,200 running back, it's Montgomery or David Johnson for me. 5'7" and 5'6". I'm not going to get to Taylor. I'm not going to get to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm not really super excited about Gurley either. So I would go Johnson or Montgomery. Montgomery or David Johnson? That one's tough. I'll go David Johnson, or I'll go Montgomery just because, with David Johnson, they still have Duke Johnson, who will get some passing down work. So, yeah, I guess give me Dave Montgomery there. Best play at 4,500. 4,500 best play. Let's see. There's not a lot here, to be honest. Like, this price range is not great. Like, sure, you can consider Gage in the slot. You can consider Cobb in the slot. It's probably one of the tight ends, to be honest. So I would look to like Ingram or Hurst or Hunter Henry. That's probably where I go. Early slate: Gurley, Edwards, Helaire, Taylor, or Montgomery. For me, it's Montgomery. Who's your favorite safe salary savers for cash lineups? I think it's Christian Blake, or Johnson. If you consider Mooney, I think Mooney is. I really like him at 3.9. How's this look? Let's see: Locke, Edmonds, David Johnson, Judy, Lockett, Mooney, Waller, Cook, and the Cardinals. I think that looks okay. Nick Foles, low salary sleeper. Yeah, I do kind of like Nick Foles. I don't think a lot of people get to him. But yeah, Foles is solid. Gibson or Johnson, I guess, under. For me, it is David Johnson. Now, I guess I didn't really mention Antonio Gibson. He is a decent option here. Like, his price range is, let's go up to him. He's at 5'8". Did have over 100 yards the last game. Did have 20 carries. But that was a game they were playing from ahead. This one's projected to be pretty close. I think he's an okay option. I would probably still feel a little bit more comfortable with Montgomery or Johnson, though. Julio's a lock this week. I don't think he's a lock, but he definitely looks like one of the better plays. Dallas, thoughts with Carson out. I'm not on Dallas. Homer was used as an emergency situation last week. He is now healthy. They also brought up Alex Collins in the practice squad, so I don't trust DJ Dallas. Watson or Kyler Murray on FanDuel, can't decide. For me, give me Kyler. Is this a Marvin Jones 4-touchdown week? It's possible. I think Marvin Jones is a guy that he seems to have one of those big weeks every year where he just completely breaks the slate. With no Galladay and a good matchup, I think that looks decent. Any love for Josh Jacobs at 6'3"? I think he does fly under the radar. I'm okay with him. I think he's a guy that, if they're playing from ahead, he has potential to go for 20 to 25 carries, getting a little involvement in the passing game. Thoughts on Hollywood Brown? I'm not getting. I don't trust the Baltimore passing offense. I like Lamar as a play. If I'm going to play anyone in Baltimore, it's going to be Lamar. I'm just going to use him as a naked Lamar. Right? I'm not going to pair him with anyone. Thoughts on running Julio and Gage together in cash without Ridley? I probably don't go Gage in cash games. But yeah, Julio is definitely someone I'm looking to cash. Stafford starting. Yep, again, Stafford, we talked about that. I think he makes for an interesting contrarian play at his price. Marcus Johnson or Sims Jr.? Give me Marcus Johnson there. You can do this and play, let's see, Kyler Murray or Watson. Yeah, for me, give me Kyler. I like that he has a little bit more rushing upside. Russell, Gurley, Gibson, Cobb, Lockett, Shepard, Ingram, Robinson, Cardinals for cash. No, I don't think I would do that. I wouldn't play Gurley or Gibson in cash, or Robinson, to be honest. Cash game running backs are the guys I've listed here, plus Justin Jackson. So I would probably play 3 of those 4 guys. You can either go Cook, Connor, and Edmonds, or Justin Jackson. That's where I would go in cash games. Now, if that's a GPP lineup, sure, you can consider that. Sterling, Shepard, Sheep, yeah, I guess I didn't really talk about him. He does seem, a little bit too cheap. Him and the Giants receivers, they're going to fly under the radar. Targets will be there for them. Both Shepard. Let's go to the Giants. No Golden Tate. Don't really know if that changes a whole lot for Shepard and Slayton. They're both fine options. They're contrarian options. I think they're okay if you want to kind of differentiate yourself. They're fine. And you love the Hockenson. Yeah, I think Hockenson looks okay. He had 10 targets last week with no Galladay. Maybe he gets targeted a little bit more, and the matchup's good. Thoughts for cash, Marvin Jones or DJ Dallas? It's definitely Marvin Jones for me. Stafford starting. Yep. Who are you playing for defense and DK? I'm playing the Giants defense. Julio or Keenan? I like them both a lot. It's a tough one. That one's almost 50-50. I think Julio will probably be more popular since we got the news of Keenan, was questionable. So maybe for GPPs, you go Keenan for a little bit lower ownership. But I really like both guys today. Robinson or Connor for GPPs? It's still going to be Connor for me. Even though he's going to be more popular, I just like Connor better. Is Blake a bad play? I don't think he's a bad play. I think he's certainly a viable punt. At that price, he doesn't need a lot to pay off his salary, and he's the direct backup for Ridley. When Ridley was out last game in the second half, Blake basically played the entire game. So that's what I'm expecting this game. Is I'm expecting Blake to be out there a lot. I think 70 to 80% of the snaps. What about Lamar? I like Lamar as a GPP quarterback play. I do. He's going to be low-owned, maybe below 5%. And he has rushing upside. He got a little bit unlucky last game. Not a lot of people are getting to him, but I do like Lamar quite a bit for GPPs. GPP lineup, Josh Allen, Justin Jackson, Robinson, Diggs, Lockett, Mooney, Henry, Jacobson, Washington defense. Perfectly fine with that. Who do you prefer with Hunter, Henry, and Hurst? It's Henry slightly, but that's not a strong take. Do you like Jordan Akins? Not for me. Carr or Matt Ryan? Give me Carr for cheaper. Herbert, Connor, Gibson, Julio, Diggs, Mooney, Henry, and Jones, Marvin Jones Jr. Let's see. So you got Herbert pairing them with Hunter Henry. Yeah, I think that's okay. Juno at tight end. I didn't really talk about him. I'm not overly excited about it. Matchup's not great. He's the guy that they targeted, a lot early in the season. Yeah, it's a way to get different, but I probably prefer in the price range. Like I like Ingram more, I like Hurst more, I like Henry more. GPP: Matt Ryan, Gibson, Justin Jackson, Julio, Diggs, Metcalf, Hurst, Mooney. God help me on the Falcons defense. That's okay. So you got Matt Ryan, Julio, and Hurst, and the Falcons defense. I guess the one thing is you're playing a lot of Miami guys or a lot of Atlanta guys, and no one from Denver. But you're playing the Falcons defense, so it's going to be different. Hurst and Cook or Johnson and Kelsey. Give me Hurst and Cook there. Mark Andrews or Hollywood. For me, I would just take the discount on Mark Andrews, but I'm not super excited about the Baltimore receiving options. We do have Dez Bryant playing now, or active for Baltimore, so who knows how many snaps he plays. Kyler Murray, Cook, Gordon, Beasley, Hall, Hopkins, Logan Thomas, Arizona defense slots. I got a feeling on Gordon today. Yeah, if you feel strongly about Melvin Gordon, always go with your gut. I always tell you guys, go with your gut plays. Like, sure, I'm not overly excited about Melvin Gordon, but if you really like him, that's fine. You have the Murray Hopkins stack, which I like for GPPs. You're playing some cheap guys, with Hall. Beasley is an interesting contrarian play. Logan Thomas, not super excited about it, but yeah, I don't really have like a strong issue with that. Good luck, all. Thielen. I like Thielen for GPPs just because we know Cook's going to be popular. Right? He's probably the most popular play in the slate. One way to leverage that is you just go for wide. You go with a passing attack. So, there's a way where Minnesota falls behind, maybe a couple scores, and they kind of phase out Cook a bit. Then, the Cousins Thielen stack. We've seen big games from Thielen this year, and the price is coming down on Thielen. I like him for GPPs. Stafford, Cook, Connor, Blake, Jones Jr., Hockenson, Jackson, Giants. I think it looks good, right? You got the Detroit stack. You're running back Cook. Yeah, I like that. Russell, Gurley, Gibson, Cobb, Lockett, Shepard. I think we already went over that. Yeah, for cash games, I don't like that for cash. Again, the running backs I talked about are on the screen, plus Justin Jackson. Font, Mooney, or Ogunwawe and Cooks. Give me Font and Mooney. Thoughts on Corey Davis? Not for me at that price. I just think, I don't think we have to go there. He is at, yeah, just 5'9". That's too expensive for me. Yeah, we got about 5 minutes to lock, guys. So keep up the questions. Let's see if we got any more breaking news. Don't think we're really going to get much here. Pierre Zeke is going to have to go around for a third time. Let's see. Oh no, never mind. That's NASCAR. Let's see. Mahomes, Edmonds, Jacobs, Hill, Hardman, Anderson, Hunter Henry, Mooney, and Giants C. Yeah, I like that for GPP lineup. Where you got the Chiefs stack running back with Robbie Anderson. Thank you all for DK. I've cashed 6 straight Sundays. Time to make it 7. Hey, let's go, man. Let's make it 7 straight. That's great. Thank you. Of course, guys. Carr, Jackson, Cook, Diggs, Lockett, Mooney, Burton, Edmonds, and Giants for cash. Diggs, Lockett, Mooney, Burton. Yeah, I think you can do that for cash. You're not pairing Carr with anyone. I don't think you necessarily, I guess, have to. Burton's the one, I guess, questionable play just because the Colts do have 2 other tight ends. But everything else, like, I have no issue with anything else there for cash games. Jones or Connor for cash? James Conner for me. Oh, wait, is that Julio Jones? So we're talking about Julio Jones and Connor? I mean, I like them both for cash games. Yeah, so that one's really close. McLaurin, yeah, McLaurin's another guy I didn't really talk about. I'm not overly excited about him at that price. Thoughts on Disley, punt, and Wilson stack? Probably not for me. Disley is super cheap, but yeah, you say you love McLaurin. He's been playing really well with questionable play. 6'5" is just at a price range that I guess he will fly under the radar. So yeah, you can look to him as contrarian play. He's just so close. He's priced so close to like some of the top plays in the slate with guys like the Seattle receivers, Diggs, Julio, Keenan Allen. But he's priced really close to these guys. So yeah, he's going to go low owned. I do feel more comfortable with some of the guys above him here, but not out of play. Bradbury going to be a McLaurin? Yeah, I mean, that's, again, tough individual matchup, but people also got scared of playing Mike Evans last week with Bradbury matchup. Mike Evans still got there. Like, sure, he didn't crush, but I think he had like 5 or 6 catches, like 50, 60 yards and a touchdown. Carr, Cook, Jackson, Jones, Allen, Mooney, Waller, Henry, Giants C. Looks good, man. I like that a lot. Thanks, DK. Good luck, man. Like the video. Yeah, guys, again, one more time, we'll ask if you enjoy it. Hit the like button. We got about 51 likes. So, yeah, that lineup you just mentioned was almost identical to what I have. He had 7 for 74 against him a couple weeks ago, Alex. Yeah, McLaurin He had a decent week last week against him. But yeah, the individual matchup is not great. But McLaurin has had some tough matchups. He's had bad quarterback plays, and he's still put up good fantasy point games. So I'm perfectly fine with McLaurin to get different. I don't really think he's a cash game play, but the targets have been there. Good luck, guys. Thanks for the advice, DK, of course. Again, I appreciate you guys coming and spending your Sunday morning with me. We were over 200 viewers again for the live stream, so thank you guys. Thanks, DK. Good luck to all. We're winding down, guys. We got about, I think, 30 seconds to lock, so any last-minute questions, throw them in there. We'll go over some ownership. Again, I really haven't been playing a lot of cash games. I've just been playing kind of like single-entry GPPs. McLaurin moved around, 2 and 12, primary defender. Thanks, DK. So we'll go over some ownership. Again, I'm going to talk about it in GPP since I did not play cash games. Once that does load in, it usually takes about a couple minutes. Sometimes it's a little bit more delayed. 47% Mooney, 46% Julio for me. I mean, I like that. I do. I want Watson, Cook, Dallas, Tim Patrick, Marvin Hall, Cooks, Henry, CMC, and Giants C for early only. kind of gave you guys my concerns with Dallas. Not really excited about him with Homer now healthy and Collins up from the practice squad. Good luck, guys. Connor Edmonds, Allen, Jones, Mooney, Waller, Samuel, and the Lions. Yeah, I mean, is that for GVPs, right? Because Samuel is a guy I didn't really talk about, but I still think he's an okay option. Lions defense, but again, defense is super high variance. Everything else looks good in that. Like the first part of that is like basically identical to what I have. Good luck, everyone. Same here. All right, let's see. Does ownership come in? We'll give it another minute or two. Sometimes it does take a lot on the main site to load up, but we'll give it a couple more minutes, and then if it doesn't load in, we'll just get out of here. So, yeah, another piece of really good news, guys, is NBA. I don't know if you saw. We got confirmation that it is going to be back December 22nd. So that's less than 2 months away. And I'm sure we'll have some preseason game too, so probably even closer, maybe about a month away. I cannot wait for NBA slates every single day. Good luck, all. We'll give it another minute, guys, because I'm sure a lot of you, including myself, want to go watch the games, get some red zone on, and enjoy. We have a super exciting Monday night game. We got Jets and one of the worst Monday night games I think I've ever seen. Jets Patriots. Whew, that'll be ugly. But as always, and I'll always have showdown videos up. I'll have one up for that slate as well. I think we'll have a Millie Maker we usually do with those kind of isolated showdown sites like Thursday, Monday. Yeah, ownership's not loading in, guys, so I think I'm going to get out of here, go watch the games, but good luck to everyone. Hope you guys all have a good Sunday. Again, I'll have a video up for Monday show on Slate later today. Be able to look up for that. And as always, thanks again, and I will see you guys later.